exchanging some when I was exchanging some comments with Danny, we were thinking like, what is really platform cooperativism? It is a movement yet or not? Like, it does exist or is a media bubble? No. At the same time, we really need a third party, because if you have to collaborate and cooperate with different actors, you need shared trust, you need adaptable governance models, because all the platforms are different. So someone are two-sided platform, two type of users, someone are 5 different type of users, and then you have the startup team and so on and so forth. Cooperative capital, platform know-how, many of those that actually want to do this type of things don't have any technical knowledge. They don't know what is network effect. They don't know what are the problems that someone have to face when launching a new platform. So these things can be solved if we can build certain real incentive to avoid the fragmentation of action, as we will see in the second part of this presentation. But I don't want to be pessimistic. I mean, I really like this quote, like all the models are wrong, but some are useful. So in general, what we see is like why we should point on platform cooperativism, why it is very interesting as a model. And actually we have some platform coop that works, and on what we can leverage that we didn't actually unlock yet. The cooperative world actually is huge. Just 12% of the humanity is part of a cooperative. You have almost 300 million people that work inside cooperatives, and they're also a very strong economic force. And they know that they have to change. They know that they have to adapt. Another point that is on our side is like that platforms are almost all Americans. 75% are from US, only 3% are from Europe. The other are almost all Chinese. The third point is that we have been seeing a terrible rise in the inequality during this past pandemic. And the platforms are part of it, are central in this, and the future of our economy and our society depends on this type of platforms, because platforms have become the infrastructure of the economy, the mean of production, and at the same time are also the medium per excellence and social engineer right now tool. So just to finish, and then we start with a little bit of common reflection and with an exercise. What we really need is to try to out-cooperate, so trying to leverage all the resources that we have and pull them together in order to try to do something that can out-cooperate those actors that we are seeing right now. So from here, I will leave it to Danny. What we will do right now is to start from mapping our individual pressures, and then we will move to the type of collective answer that we should try to build. So thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Damiano. And so, short exercise for all of us. I see a lot of good introductions in the chat, and I see a lot of familiar faces. So our movement may be more of a small club right now, but we're going to figure out where we're at in this broader ecosystem. And I'm going to do a short exercise. It should take about 5 or 10 minutes, depending. Oh, speak up, Danny. Okay. How's this? Better? Okay. So short exercise for maybe 10 minutes, and I'm going to try to get us all to get familiar with where we're at so we can make some of these connections we need. First, I'm Danny. I'm based in Oakland, California, and I do user research. Basically, that means looking at what users need and trying to figure out what we can do to help them lead. Very familiar with the Platform Co-op conferences, the emails, the Facebook groups. Been thanks to Nathan back in 2014 when we met, 13 maybe, and then the conference, right? Been watching this and did a case study recently, sort of a post-mortem on loconomics, that something Damiano and I talked about. So you can see that if you want to read one death of a platform cooperativism project. I want to take us through this exercise now. We're going to use Miro, correct, Damiano?
Roblox.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to explain the nature of this exercise. It's 2 parts.
Oh, really? Okay.
1, what is the main pressure that's facing you right now with your project? And I'll explain what these all are, but, oh, I should mute myself. can't really do that. One of the points about, for example, on the competitive markets should be pretty self-explanatory. You're competing in a market and you're trying to be selling your services or your products, and other folks are competing against you. So that's your main pressure, for example. I'll get into the rest, but the next part of the exercise, next slide, is what phase of your life cycle are you at? Are you at the first phase of just justifying, making the rationale, making the case that we should do this project? The second phase of designing the organization. I love sociocracy. I want this to be teal. I want this to be nonprofit. I want this to be whatever. I want this to be 3 people. I want this to be with no board. The third phase is the big phase, right? Yeah. This is where a lot of us may find ourselves or want to be, but this is where we're growing and we are trying to achieve our vision and get some glory. We are moving into heterogeneity, sorry for the jargon, but basically we are systematizing and normalizing what we do. Or maybe we're in the last phases, right? We're recognizing some success and some failure, some struggles, and we are doing introspection. We're saying, maybe we should act on some of this realization and we should change. And then the choice, last phase. And this is where I'll just add a quick comment for future reference of exit to community, right? So maybe we've been doing a normal startup and we want to exit, shift ownership. Maybe we want to reinvent things entirely. Maybe we want to spin something off and spawn, or maybe we want to keep the status quo, keep doing what we're doing, that's fine. These are 5 phases of a life cycle, and you can see that they will come back around 1 to 5 and 1 to 5 again. And all of us are at one of these phases. So the exercise is for each of us to figure out what phase we are at and what pressure is acting on us the most. That way we can all get to know each other and see interesting similarities and differences. Differences are often more interesting, but that's just a bit of a bias. And a little bit of a view. If you go to the next slide to see how this would look when it actually comes together. We're not going to be making this graph right now, but just to give you a feel for it, right? Often, we did this session a year and a half ago in New York. It was about 60 people, mostly around the world. Well, about half, yeah? Outside of the US, I mean. and mostly folks who were building the projects, about a third of the folks helping the projects. And you can see how these different pressures added up at different phases. People in the first 2 phases were really working hard not to imitate. Yeah, they're working really hard not to just adopt the best practices of existing projects and enterprises. But the next 3 phases, you can see the main pressure people were facing was competing for market share, right? Trying to sell stuff, trying to get revenue in the door. We may find a totally different pattern. That was from 60 people, and so we'll see what we have here, yeah? And we're going to take this into a Miro board where we're going to be able to move around, find ourselves. We're a nice group of 25 people, so I think we're going to see some interesting patterns. Please find the link in the chat. And then if you can join us all in the Miro board, I'll pause for a moment. If anyone needs some clarification as you get into the Miro board, what we're doing, what is going on, please. Yeah, you can see some technical difficulties. So I'm going to hand it back to Giulio and Damiano for some technical help.
Do you want to share your screen, Danny?
I think best of all is for folks trying to get into the Miro board, they're trying to register. Yeah, so maybe someone can explain verbally out loud just what to do to get in.
I think it should be, you should be also, it should be possible to join also as a guest, I think, no?
Yeah. Are you sending the link? What is your problem specifically?
It looks like Nurul and Nathan and Bunny are being asked to register for the Miro. So are you three still facing this challenge?
It could depend from the browser because, yeah, somebody's
But
having
I think I
problems.
solved it. I think I solved it. It should be now. It should work. Sorry.
If you have problems in entering without registering, you can register. It's very fast. It doesn't work.
Okay, so people are coming in here already. I'm going to explain the specifics. I really want to make sure people have a pattern, yeah? In these two parts of the exercise, 1 and 2, write your name and the organization you're part of. I see someone wrote Up and Go. I don't know if we have anyone from Up and Go here. I'd be surprised. So please name for yourself, your name and your organization, and then stick it like this. Oopsie, sorry. Stick it on where you think these pressures are acting most for you. Yeah. Let me briefly describe one very important pressure. Mimetic, that means you are, as I said earlier, facing a pressure to imitate, to adopt best practices, to be under the dominant form, to take things for granted, yeah? Imitating the competitors. Airbnb, we'll do Fairbnb, right? And we'll just tweak one little thing. That's a pressure we face. Normative professionalization is similar, but that is basically a lot of us here, you know, we live in a capitalist world and we have kinds of careers. Yeah, so to professionalize, to take movement work, grassroots organizing and make it a job, make it something corporate. That's what that pressure means. Okay, so I'm gonna shut up. I know my mic has some background noise and I'm sorry. But please, we're going to take a little bit of time now to figure this out, find our pressures, and we'll reference, you know, across both of these exercises where we're at.
Please focus on the left part. The right part of the ecosystem, we will do it in a few minutes.
Italian, we can see you.
Okay, let's give this 2 more minutes. If you have not yet, please make one note, one sticky for both the first and second exercise. That's important because then we can see what pressure is acting on you at which phase. It's good to see a couple of pressures named. I see a couple of phases named, but please make sure you have one of each. I'm going to share one last time the different pressures. I'm sorry that they are hard to understand. That's good feedback. They are pulled from some academics, so maybe not too surprising. I'm going to share with you all briefly again and look at these different pressures. And here we are. And we'll basically be done. Yeah? And I understand also these pressures are often many at a time. So market pressure, competitive markets, that's competing for sales revenue. Mimetic pressure, that's the pressure to imitate mainstream groups or these best practices. Normative professionalization, adopt professional standards, make things corporate, make it a job more than volunteering or organizing effort. And then coercive regulatory and coercive culture. These are similar, right? But following pressures around ethics and behavior, like having a kind of hierarchy, and local regulations, like how you do accounting. For example, co-ops, they talk often about surplus and revenue, not profit. But sometimes people change their language or have a CEO. So those are the pressures. Thank you for the feedback. That is hard to understand. Hopefully that helps a little for now to find the one that's working on you the most in your current phase. Okay. So to wrap this up, I'm going to ask, let's see, I see one here. Trying to find somebody. If you can please in the chat, tell me if you feel like you've comfortably found your pressure and your phase. Comfortably enough. If you feel like you've got a good enough description. Let's see if we have a few folks. Okay, so to close this out, I'd like to ask Bunny, if you're all right with it, in a few words, describe your situation and the phase you're at and the pressure acting on you. And then maybe we'll get a response from someone and we'll be able to see the connections.
So you're asking me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I chose other as the pressure because, well, this is not a commercial thing. This is a community project. I've already tested the waters in terms of like the phase 1, but now it's basically all back on me to build out something that people can use and understand, because they don't really understand decentralization or tier level principles. So I don't have the money to build it out, and I don't see existing platforms available to me that incorporate the values that this community would need to be built on. So it's like I don't have a place, there's no Facebook kind of place for me to go that would provide the tools and have the integrity and the values at the same time. So then it's on me to try to build that out, and I am not a developer. So I need to build it for them to come, and I have all those blocks in order to build it. Did that answer?
I think so. Yeah, what I'd love to do is just to ask someone else if that spoke to them or if they could relate. So this is less about you than about Bunny's situation, but please, if there's someone else who connects with where Bunny is at and what pressure is acting on her, to share a little bit about that, and we'll be done for now.
So Bunny, let me just ask you some questions and see if this relates to what you're feeling. Do you feel like you have a clear way to ask for the help you need? Okay, so there's a lack of clarity around how to create a frame around where you are and how somebody could actually negotiate with you to exchange value that you need. Would that be fairly accurate? And so if you could account for the different parts, because you don't need just one skill set, you need probably a number of skill sets to be able to coordinate together to get you to the next step. Would that be accurate? And so I'm actually kind of framing out clarity, focus, accountability, commitment. And I think that as an entrepreneur for 30 some years, having started 11 businesses, I can say that what entrepreneurs do very well is we identify opportunity, and what we really the thing that I think is missing in entrepreneurial education is how we do due diligence and how we negotiate commitment. And so, being able to frame that up in a way that I need commitment and I need a specific type of commitment, so you can identify, the values and the goals of other people and the outcomes, so that you're not spinning your wheels, because no doubt this is not the first forum you've asked for, you're seeking help. It's just that there's no coherence. Would that be a fair assessment?
I think I understand you correctly, and I don't want to take over because I feel like he said that this was supposed to be more about you than me. But I also feel like all these things that I'm learning and my interest is to co-create something with other people. But it's like, how do you co-create a platform with other people when they're not where you're at? They don't necessarily understand these principles yet. They want to see you build it first before they're fully enrolled in it. And I'm going, but I want us all to contribute. If I create it, it's just my thing. It won't be appropriate for the wider community. I want from the onset for everybody to contribute, but I have to get to a point where I can tell the story and bring them in so they understand that, and so they care about it. They see themselves, they can see their ownership in it.
Sure. Sure.
This is really great. I'm gonna wrap things up. I hope other folks got something out of hearing how Bunny shared where she's at. Appreciate you, Bunny, for working through what you're doing. And Susan, definitely appreciate the discernment. Thank you for that too. After the session today, this is unfortunately a bit of a tight space to try and make everyone have some connections. Zoom, we can't all just go off into the corners, like we would like to maybe in real life, but the hope is after today, this layout, where we're at and some of these different connections that you can see, hopefully we'll be able to facilitate you all connecting with each other in a more fluid way around where you're at and how, and ideally, and this is kind of to give it back to Damiano, naming the pressures and the struggles we have inside of our projects or on the sort of higher level of the projects is more important, I think, for us than what we're succeeding at. Not to say we shouldn't appreciate what's going well, but to name some of those struggles of doing even better and to be able to support each other. Irene, I'm going to give you the last word and then back to Damiano.
Yes, thank you, Danny. I mean, I feel like well, I'm with the Disco Coop crowd, and I feel that we don't fit in any of those boxes. And I think that if I started to talk about every single, bubble, I would tell you a very different story, because we are struggling at the minute in Spain with the local cooperative legal framework. And I can tell you a specific story about that, why we had to go to a region and not to another region to set up the cooperative. The cultural aspects, very important. The recruitment aspects that Bunny was talking about and Susan gave the feedback about it. It's so difficult to get people to get disco, bring them in. It takes around 6 months to people to kind of like start vibing and understanding the rhythms. And then, I mean, for the last 6 months, we've had a horror story, being a very large group of people, and then boom, suddenly everybody leaving, and we're like, what's happening? What did we do wrong? I mean, this is amazing. So, I mean, there are some really interesting stories about this. I mean, unfortunately, when money is scarce, values jump, through the window, and it's very difficult to get that commitment. Susan, I don't know if commitment, how do we understand commitment? We talk about commitment statements. So when people want to commit, they need to actually commit, like if I commit to this group to do X, Y, Z, because I believe in it, of course, but because I need to put X amount of hours, to do things like building the tech or testing the governance model. So Danny, I think this exercise was really interesting, but I think we all would need like, half an hour to say, in this bubble, these are my problems and I can tell you a story. And then there are all sorts of things around the accounting stuff that we are developing, which of course, the legal, current accounting, system in Spain, it doesn't match. So we need to act as translators, like the model, this is the way it should work. This is the way people get paid in Spain. And what happens with the people in other parts in Europe or other parts of the world. So those are real daily challenges, and we need to kind of like, just like be creative and try not to commit many mistakes and not being chased for fraud, basically. Because in the end, that's at the end of the day, that's what happens. And so those are really big constraints.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad that there's more to be discussed. So just enough to help, but not enough to complete the conversation. Otherwise, we wouldn't want to be interested in talking to each other anymore. So a good reason for further conversation. Thank you so much, everyone. This is gonna, I hope, flow well into the rest of what Damiano and Julio have to take in our session. I see we have a little more time too. So maybe I'll invite everyone to take a short breath, since I'm from California and that's how we like to handle ourselves out here. And then thanks again, and back to you, Damiano.
Thank you, Danny, and thank you, everyone. I think that we will need days for each of this topic that we touched, and there is a tendency to reductionism because we have just 1 hour. Therefore, what we can see is like that even if with different pattern, there are certain things that might be tackled together somehow, no? And I think right now we'll leave the floor to Giulio, that will tell you a little bit what's going on from those that are trying to start new platform co-ops. And I think it's interesting, yes, because we somehow adopted certain things of the startup model that might not really fit in what we want to do. We probably won't need 20 different platform for travels, but So these are different questions that we don't have an answer for, but I leave it to Giulio to present you some data.
Yeah, will you share the presentation? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to give a very short overview of the projects presented in the first and second edition of Platform Coop Now. And I see at least one person here who participated. How many others? Okay, okay, right in the chat, I'm happy to see you. So, yeah, second slide, we had, Damiano, maybe if you can go full screen, okay, cool. We had 815 participants from 47 countries. You see the nationalities, mainly Europe and US, but also a lot of America Latina, and also small groups from Africa, Asia, South Asia. To me, it was a wonderful experience of internationalizations and to see different cultures, and especially a lot of enthusiasm, which I didn't expect about this new platform coop trend that maybe is a bit vague and abstract, but actually participants were very motivated, and it gave us a lot of enthusiasm too. The age is, I think, quite representative of the cooperative ecosystem, as we have quite numerous group of over 46, let's say, in the chart, because the cooperative movement, and I think it is a good thing, is very intergenerational. So we have old people, mid-age, and also a lot of young people, as we say here. And 12% of the humanity is really a lot of people. And regarding the projects instead, so we go to the core. I was in charge of tracking the projects and follow them, receiving feedback. It was amazing how many ideas were emerged. And you see, as a pandemic-driven issue, that food and delivery was the main economic sector chosen. I have a lot of platform coops here, but also digital support and also a lot of education and training. And this is very good because platform coops, of course, regard everything, but especially the digital enabled business. And then you see also the other economic sector who were chosen. But what we want to highlight here, especially in regard to this workshop and our need and desire for coordination on a global scale, is that actions is quite fragmented, because we don't need, I mean, it's understandable and comprehensible to be in a context, and it's difficult to see all the similar businesses in the world, and it must not be an excuse to not do it. But for example, if you are speaking about e-commerce for food delivery, or platform coops for food delivery, it doesn't make sense to have 100 cooperatives doing 100 different softwares. It makes much more sense to coordinate and have a shared software. And also, coming from platform design toolkit knowledge, let's say, it comes out in our perspective that there is a lack of platform know-how, in the sense that maybe it's underestimated the difficulty of developing a platform business in respect to a traditional one. Yeah, so we want to create this network, this conversation, also to spread the relevant platform know-how and really to scale out the cooperative movement. And I think I was very good in staying under 3 minutes, so we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Giulio. So right now, I think we can take just I don't know if someone would like to say something regarding this transition, let's say, no? So in this last part of the presentation, it's about thinking how can we avoid that the struggle, let's say, that we had with Airbnb, or the struggle that everyone is having with many of different projects, because I heard Felix from Fairmondo, the same thing, and really every one of us is facing certain type of challenge. How can we deal at an higher level. What do we need somehow, no? And in this part of the presentation, I will present what we are doing in Italy, the project we are working on, and imagine if can be somehow interesting to think at a distributed level. So what we are thinking right now is thinking about an ecosystemic strategy. In particular, we are trying to envision this idea of Coop Valley. So imagine, let's say, a sort of Silicon Valley, but to rethink the use that we do and the technology that we use in a cooperative and solidarity, or based on cooperative and solidarity principles. Emilia-Romagna is the region of Bologna, just for you to know. 1/3 of the GDP is produced by cooperatives. And in general, what we are doing, very briefly, this is useful for the exercise that we are doing in 3 minutes. Basically, who are the actors? Platform Design Toolkit, so Boundaryless, the company that I'm working with right now, and Retedoc, that is the cooperative that I'm working with right now. So to bring technical competences relatively to platform strategy and ecosystemic strategy. From the other hand, a big cooperative that can bring network. Just imagine if we are thinking to launch let's say a cooperative gig economy platform. We have more than 500 video makers and so on, video maker, graphic designer and so on. So we could do a vertical with already having the supply side filled, for example. Then another partner of the project is Coop Fund, is almost €500 million mutual funding. So it's very important to have also this type of actors inside this these processes to try to tackle together certain challenge. And then other actors like the University of Bologna. What we are doing practically, we are trying to create a startup studio, a cooperative startup studio that minimize the cost of startupping an idea or bringing it in Italy. Up and Go, that is a platform cooperative for cleaning services that is having success in New York. Can we bring it in Italy? Can we connect it with a community here? So scaling for a platform cop is about adapt and replicate somehow. So can we make it? So there are successful cases. Let's start to spread these successful cases. So what we are doing is we are trying to build a team and a consortium that can give the trust, the competencies, and coordination, and the capital to launch new project through this lean process that actually basically iterate a process that minimizes, say, the resources. So here we just want to share with you is just a collective provocation. Let's say, can we think about a distributed studio? If we have a studio in all the different countries, can this be scale and giants? Can really this be a tool that we use to build and enable and cooperative, let's say, global collaboration? So just here, maybe before we start the exercise, it will be interesting to hear from you a little bit, and then maybe I can introduce you the exercise for the last 10 minutes.
Is that a call for open discussion?
Yes, just 1 minute for relatively to the need, if some of the thoughts shared are shared also by your community, but what you are doing and you felt something that you felt.
Okay. I don't know how many people have this issue, but I mean, we spoke a lot about the language of governance in the last presentation. And I think that the issue with co-ops is always finding the staying true to the original vision of the co-ops and then including more people, which of course shifts the vision, partly legitimately and partly it's how to keep the original founders feeling that they have not, that the vision hasn't drifted so far, that they don't recognize themselves. So the question of goal alignment, which was the first
So just very sorry to briefly interrupt you. We decided to do the breakouts up until the full hour. So you still have 23 minutes, Damiano, okay? For the overall session, so you have more time, okay?
So yes, we spoke about regulatory here. We spoke about the question of alignment and finding alignment between co-ops. And I think it's wonderful that we're thinking about that. But I think that the alignment within the organization is often one that is very key to the co-op survival. And it is about shared goals. And when I think it should be easy for the co-op boundaries to be very organic. Like to say, okay, right now there's a divergence. Well, let's form 2 co-ops and 1 and 2 and make it very ad hoc, project-based organization, rather than always having a fixed boundary where people struggle with slightly different goals and visions. Over.
So this requires interoperability probably among platforms, and this is something that we should try to.
Interoperability is, of course, one of my key issues. By the way, I'm working on representation models for goals and visions and predictions and viewpoints, so that people can better align and identify where they agree and disagree. That's what I'm working on.
I want to propose a concept. Interoperability, it's not only between institutions or organizations, but in between different realms of reality. As Irene was pointed, there is a legal structure that is there and a cultural structure that is there, and now we're trying to move to new dreams and new paradigms. So I want to propose this concept, plus COP. Well, what do I mean by plus COP? That we go beyond cooperative idea, beyond cooperative philosophy, and extend it after the limits of the cooperative itself and into society. So how would it be a cooperative world, not only cooperative legal structure or cooperative system, but a cooperative environment, social environment?
I mean, to me, here is interesting because it's not only, it's, let's say platforms are infrastructure of the economy, so they should be collectivized, not just at the use of a single users. So for this particular spectrum of society, we might also think about platform socialism, let's say. Well, I don't want to enter too much into this type of speech, but to me, one thing that I would like to ask you is, startups, especially platforms, needs lots of time to reach the break-even point. So the difference is, okay, if we do a traditional cooperative, after a little bit, we somehow are able to pay as a wage. And so that's why normal cooperative exists. With startup that actually have this long, the first year or 2 years, you don't earn a single penny. So that's, I think, also one big challenge that we should try to think about. Go on, Irene.
Nathan, want to jump in? Sorry, Irene.
No, it's okay, Giulio. Just maybe, I mean, if it's this is very, takes us in a completely different course, just tell me, shut up, and we will, touch this point some other day. But I was thinking, I love the idea. I think it's a very, very good idea. But what if we start with the actual entrepreneurs? Yeah, let's face it. Being a cooperativist entrepreneur is not a cool thing. Yeah, people that are now starting businesses, how do they come together? How do you bring together a group of people and that have that type of, together we are stronger and we can do this and we're going to share. And maybe you are smarter than me, but that's fine because I work harder or something like that. So I think we live in a society, or most of the world lives in a society that doesn't allow for people to think like that, or doesn't prep people to think like that. So that is a fact. And then bringing a group of brilliant people together needs to be engineer as in, how do you bring brilliant people together? Yeah. What are the mechanisms to do that? Some universities are doing that with entrepreneurships, courses and things like that, like Mondragon is doing, Lane, and all that. But that's not the norm. So if we don't have that type of people, how can this be this venture studio of use? I hope I explained myself okay and wasn't too controversial, but
no, see, I said it in the chat, but the government puts a lot of money in helping startups. There's all these services for startups growth. We need these services for co-ops and social economy. We have this here in Quebec. We have a social economy office that helps social economy enterprises such as co-ops to grow. It's not as big as I would want, but it exists. And I think it's absolutely essential that we make it. And also, we can't always expect the government to do it. We need to be here for one another. And there I'm with you. I mean, this is, I think, the point of this meetup here. But we need both.
I will, if someone wants to talk briefly, and then we can go to the exercise and then trying to conclude for this hands, and then we try to do the exercise and then we close.
And Andrea has a hand raised.
Yeah, go on.
Yes. So taking back the reflection that was opening now, I do agree that maybe today there is no such a coolness around being a cooperative entrepreneur. But at the same time, I think that's part of our job. I mean, if I am a cooperative entrepreneur, maybe I need to learn to be cool. And I believe that the topic of measurement, so if we talk about specific indicators about sustainability from a social, economic, environmental point of view, we can start to communicate on a level that I believe during the next 5-10 years will become more and more important, not just because of being cool, but also because we will be attracting more people, we will be attracting more fundings. But in order to go there, we need a clear metric. And just sharing this.
Thank you. I cannot read the name, but
Ines?
Yes, Ines.
Want to go?
Okay, quickly, good afternoon for everybody. Just what I'm thinking is that we need to make more visible the experience that are happening in our country so that they are able to inspire others. And I think that perhaps the network, I mean, the digital area has brought some opportunities that are very interesting because never before we were able to meet people from so many faraway countries, let's say. So perhaps there is an opportunity to share our experiences and, I mean, have a kind of a meeting every, I don't know, 2 months or whatever, so that we can share our experience and know which were the difficulties, which were the lessons that we learned from that, and so on. Because I think that we are all worried about, in a way, of the same problems. And the most important thing is that we are based on the same principles to give an answer to these challenges that we are facing. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. I don't know, Nathan, if you want to say something in just 1 minute, and then we try to do the exercise.
Sure. I think you can hold both in terms of the role of the entrepreneur. There are some cases where entrepreneurs come in with great ideas, and their projects like accelerators, like Start Co-op that I've helped get going are really useful. But there are also really important cooperative opportunities that entrepreneurs aren't necessarily gonna identify on their own, and maybe they're not in the business. I think of an example where a veteran co-op developer in the US noticed something about an industry that he wasn't in that could be solved with cooperatives, with a very unsexy shared ownership or shared purchasing business model, and built the business and ended up really transforming that industry. The industry was veterinary clinics. And so I think there could be some real power in creating an initiative where we don't just rely on what are the things entrepreneurs have already noticed, but we more intentionally identify opportunities where the cooperative model could be particularly valuable and could help transform industries in ways that we don't yet have the entrepreneur for, but where we can help do some matchmaking and education.
I completely agree. I think we really need to find the cooperative advantage. Cooperative model have something that do better, create more trust, and can really also create more purposeful organizations. So I completely agree on this. And also trying to map, in the end, I will go back but to show you one of the things that we would like to do in the coming months is also to try to map different value chains and trying to understand where there are places where we can have this cooperative advantage, which are the assets that we can leverage on, and the platformization spaces that we can try to look at. So if you would like to help us, it will be really interesting for us to understand if there are some type of actors that are similar to the one that we are involving in this journey to create this startup studio for platform co-ops in Italy. It's just five minutes, but it will be very useful. Then if you are interested, we will make available all the material, all the business plan of everything we will do. And I hope that we can think together and that we can gather some feedbacks, ideas, and that this project can somehow also help us to meet in person and do things together. So if you go on the same link of the Miro board, you will find different boards for each countries where you are from. And it's written more or less there, the exercise. So the idea is that we start to write down possible technical partners, like boundaryless it is for us, possible big cooperatives like ReteDoc is for the project of Coop Valley, possible mutual funding or other type of fundings, impact fundings that could be interested in somehow trying to join the platform race and bring the cooperative world and others actors inside the platform race. And we put a general others that can be university or what else. Clearly, if you have a contact, there is a whole part of this exercise that we cutted for time reason, but if also somehow how you have a contact or you know someone that have a contact, so trying to map something that is quite close. The idea is in 2 minutes, you write down these stakeholders, and then you put it inside this matrix of influential, non-influential, and ally, fake ally. When we say fake ally is not that they are enemies, but how much easy they will join if we tell them, okay, we want to build this and this is solid, we have this business plan, and how much they will be willing actually to participate. And influential is how much there is their weight. Coop Fund, for us, it's really powerful. They committed to fund the startup that we are creating, and so it's really influential for what we want to do. So this is basically the exercise. Just take a couple of minutes I will share here. If you are you finding your right part of the board? You should be all able to find it.
Damiano, we have 9 minutes left.
We will just try to do 2 minutes writing down and 2 minutes put it in the ally influential matrix, and then we can try to close up with a round discussion. I see many of you are a little bit lost. Is in the right part. If you zoom out, you should be seeing different flags where you can actually add.
Also, if you think that there is a relevant actor that you are still not in contact, but you would like to, can be useful to note it.
Not specifically from the cooperative world. I mean, it can be also an interesting non-profit or something else, but clearly that follow the narrative that we try to follow. He's right, Bunny.
Ines, Uruguay is in the third row, second block.
Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
find
UK.
it. Ah, here I am. I thought I was
My favorite country.
You can zoom out if you don't find your board. Irene, did you find your board?
Yes, but I cannot map the ecosystem. I'm sorry. I can get people to help with the mapping, yeah, but that's not part of my core skill set. I'm sorry.
Okay. I will pass to put it in the influential ally quickly, maybe not all of them, maybe just the one that are more influential and possible ally, so that we have a couple of minutes to have some final remarks. Just 1 minute.
Sorry, Damiano, did you say, do you want us to say something like a final remark or comment?
No, if you can put the post-it that you mapped inside the metrics of influential ally in just 1 minute, 30 seconds, so that you just copy paste them and put it in the metrics, and then we just can try to close with some final remarks.
Damiano, can you please enlighten me? I really understood the drawing there. Influential, not influential, ally, fake ally. One of the stakeholders we would like to work with is Societal Platform or Mondragon. Where should I place them?
So Mondragon is an influential party, for example, actor, yes, and is also quite an ally. If you propose them something, they will be probably keen to join. I suggest that we stop here. I'm sorry if we have to cut it, but I really would like to have some final thoughts, a few moments. So just for you to know, really, in the coming future, what we would like to do is to build a path together. Today we organized it really quickly in just few days. Thank you very much for your participation. We really need to go out from conferences and start to tackle things together. And if you're interested, we will keep you updated on this with a little bit more structure and preparation. And we will create some spaces for everyone to really join some type of collective projects. Just for you to know, we are looking for possible fundings to make things happen at transnational level. We would like to envision our platforms to launch platforms, and we would like to do many other things. I don't know if someone would like to say something.
10 seconds.
Very glad.
Thank you, everybody. We are going to be ejected soon.
Okay. So thank you.
Have a good day.
Coffee, tea, whatever time zone you're in, you know, or something maybe to calm your nerves. And we meet 1:15, so in 15 minutes from now. And Luca can just, you know, share some music. And then we will move into the fish bowls, gathering everything that we have been working on in the parallel sessions. So see you back in 15 minutes. I will stay here in case there are questions. Or just to dance, you know? Yeah, finally. Music, you know? Especially after the lockdown, you know, on a Friday.